The U.S. election race between former President Trump and Vice President Harris is intensifying. The economy is at the forefront of both campaigns, and both candidates have starkly different approaches to dealing with economic issues. In a rare move, Trump used Tic Tac containers to illustrate his perspective on inflation. While Harris faced criticism for her understanding of economic fundamentals, the New York Times noted that both candidates seemed to disregard basic economic principles. This shows the seriousness of both candidates. But the bigger question is whether the U.S. economy will influence the outcome of the 2024 elections. Whose economic plan is more effective in the given circumstances? Let's try to find out. But first, some historical background. Economic conditions have historically significantly influenced voter decisions. A strong economy often benefits the incumbent party, while economic issues like inflation, unemployment, and the cost of living can prompt a desire for change. Earlier this year, President Biden proclaimed that the U.S. economy is literally the envy of the world. He credited himself with rescuing America from the economic challenges he claimed to have inherited from his predecessor, Donald Trump. According to Biden, the economy has been steadily recovering, marked by more jobs, higher wages, and a thriving stock market. Biden's optimism was evident during his March State of the Union address. He vowed to make Buy America a reality, ensuring that infrastructure projects like roads, bridges, towers, and highways are built with American products. Biden argued that this approach would create more American jobs and strengthen the economy in the long run. The 2024 election took a dramatic turn when President Biden dropped out of the race after the June 27th debate and supported Kamala Harris for president. Each candidate's economic narrative will be crucial. Voters will weigh whether Harris's optimistic outlook aligns with their own experiences, or if they believe a change in leadership is necessary to address their economic concerns. So how is the U.S. economy doing in 2024? On paper, the economic data under President Biden's administration paints a positive picture that should bolster his position as the leader who steered the U.S. through challenging times. The U.S. GDP's 2.8% increase in the second quarter of 2024 compared to the previous year strongly indicates economic health. This growth is supported by rising personal income, increasing consumer spending, and the International Monetary Fund's optimistic projections for sustained U.S. economic growth through 2029. The job market has also been a bright spot, with the U.S. economy adding 250,000 jobs in September alone, surpassing expectations. Under Biden, nearly 15.2 million jobs have been created, and unemployment has remained below 4% mark. This is a remarkable achievement not seen in 50 years. Also, the GDP rose in 18 of 23 industry groups, with significant manufacturing, retail, and construction contributions. Inflation-adjusted GDP grew in 49 states in 2023, and wages increased by 4.1% over the past year. However, the question remains whether these positive indicators will translate into voter support. While the data suggests economic progress, the effectiveness of this narrative will depend on how voters perceive their own economic situation. The connection between macroeconomic statistics and individual voter sentiment is often complex. Despite strong GDP growth and job creation, factors like inflation, cost of living, and economic inequality could influence how the public views Harris's economic policies. Here comes the hidden perspective of the U.S. economy. Despite President Biden's optimistic narrative, a significant portion of Americans remain unconvinced about the state of the economy. A poll by Redfield and Wilton reveals that 45% of Americans believe the economy is in worse shape than when Biden took office, compared to only 35% who feel it has improved. This perception gap presents a major challenge for Democrats as they put Harris on the ballot for the November election. The data highlights a stark partisan divide. 78% of likely Trump voters believe the economy has deteriorated since 2021, while only 33% of Biden supporters share that view. This divide underscores Biden's difficulty convincing the broader electorate of his economic achievements. Concerns about a possible recession are further fueling this skepticism. These worries have contributed to a global sell-off of risk assets, driven by concerns over tech valuations and geopolitical tensions in the Middle East. Economists are increasingly concerned that the U.S. economy might be weaker than the Federal Reserve initially anticipated. This could lead the Fed to consider a sharp cut in borrowing costs as soon as December, or even an emergency rate cut to boost economic demand. While the official stance is that the U.S. is not in a recession, with the economy showing resilience despite inflation and high interest rates, public perception tells a different story. A significant 60% of Americans believe the country is in a recession, regardless of the economic indicators suggesting otherwise. Whether grounded in reality or not, this belief poses a significant hurdle for Democrats and Vice President Harris. Economic sentiment is a powerful force in elections. If voters feel financially insecure or uncertain, they may be more inclined to vote for change, and the recent polls only verify it. Trump has a visible lead on economic issues and border security. The challenge for Democrats lies in presenting positive economic data and connecting that data to the lived experiences of everyday Americans. If voters don't feel the benefits of a growing GDP, low unemployment, or rising personal incomes in their daily lives, they may not be swayed by these metrics. But was the economy really good under Trump? Harris's team highlights a recovering economy, citing a 2.8% GDP growth in Q2 of 2024. In contrast, Trump's camp argues the economy is struggling, aiming to leverage voter dissatisfaction. In the June 27th presidential debate, both sides claimed economic superiority during their terms. Biden's tenure saw a 2.8% GDP growth, while Trump's administration achieved 6.8% growth, influenced by the pandemic's early disruptions. Comparing GDP growth rates, Biden leads slightly with 2.9% versus Trump's 2.7%. But which economic narrative resonates more with voters? GDP isn't the only factor. Inflation has been a major issue. Harris faces criticism for high inflation rates, with prices rising over 19% during his term. Essentials like petrol and groceries have surged. Under Trump, inflation was lower at around 6%. Despite recent declines, Biden's inflation rates remain a concern for Democrats. Both presidents have notable achievements regarding job creation. Biden's administration reduced unemployment to a historic low of 3.4% in January last year, maintaining rates below 4% for most of his term and adding about 15.7 million jobs. Trump also saw low unemployment at 3.5% before the pandemic, though it spiked to 14.9% due to the pandemic. Despite these fluctuations, job growth has generally been stronger under Biden. Lastly, both presidents saw wage growth, but high inflation under Biden has diminished real earnings. Trump's wage growth outpaced inflation, improving worker incomes. In contrast, real wages under Biden have declined by about 2.1% due to high inflation, though recent months show some recovery. Will these wage trends influence voters in the upcoming election? Trump and Biden have contributed to the U.S. economy's progress, but voters often interpret economic data through their personal experiences. Even if the economy is growing, individuals struggling to make ends meet may feel pessimistic. As November approaches, the cost of living emerges as voters' top concern, with 68% to 74% identifying it as extremely important in their decision-making. Healthcare costs also matter to many voters, with 56% to 61% considering it extremely important. So, in the given circumstances, what are Trump and Harris's plans for the U.S. economy? During their campaigns, Trump and Harris have starkly different economic stances. Trump claims to slash energy prices by at least half. On the other hand, Harris focuses on presenting her economic plans. Her campaign emphasizes the potential negative effects of Trump's fiscal policies and highlights her own proposals. Harris aims to win voters over with her opportunity economy policy, which includes an expanded child tax credit and measures to reduce housing costs. Harris's supporters, especially progressives, generally support her child care policies, even if specifics are sparse. Her selection of Tim Walz as vice president, who is known for advancing similar initiatives in Minnesota, encourages them. Integrating child care with housing and healthcare issues also resonates well, presenting a unified message on improving affordability for middle-class families. So, where are we standing to predict the election results regarding the economy? As Biden's successor, Kamala Harris emphasizes the administration's economic successes, such as job creation and the Buy America policy, while advocating for middle-class priorities like childcare and affordable housing. On the other hand, Donald Trump criticizes Harris as ineffective, highlighting rising inflation under her leadership and contrasting it with his low inflation and economic stability record. His campaign promises to cut energy prices and restore economic certainty will resonate with voters feeling the economic strain. The outcome of the 2024 election will hinge on which candidate better addresses voters' concerns about economic security. If Harris can demonstrate that her policies are effective and the economy is improving, she may secure a second term for the Democrats. However, if Trump's critique of economic mismanagement under Biden and Harris gains traction, he could return to the presidency. So, there you have it. Numbers, statistics, and two distinct economic legacies to shape the U.S. economy. What's your take? Who do you believe is better for the U.S. economy, Trump or Harris? Let us know in the comments.